Hi, my name is Paul Lacey, and today I'm going to give you a quick overview of the Ascend data pipeline automation platform. So here we're looking at an entire data pipeline within Ascend. This is the full data pipeline on a single screen, which makes it super easy to understand what's going on and debug things. We're ingesting data over here from an external source. In this case, we're ingesting data from S3. We're landing it into Snowflake. Ascend, of course, can run on top of Snowflake. It can run on BigQuery and also Databricks Delta Lake, as well as open source Spark for data transformations. And so all of this stuff is happening, but in this case, we're doing it push down onto Snowflake. So we ingest the data into Snowflake. We're using SQL statements and Snowpark statements to transform the data once it's landed into the Snowflake data plane. And then finally, we're able to share that data back out. We're able to do the reverse ETL of this data here as well, both in terms of internal shares, which are hooks that other pipelines can connect to and consume the data downstream, as well as reverse ETL into external platforms like Microsoft SQL Server here if we need to put this data back out into operational systems. So all this is happening from one screen, from one place, which makes it super easy to understand. But when we talk about automation, the most powerful part of the Ascend platform is the intelligent pipeline controller that is constantly keeping these pipelines up to date, making sure that they are 100% compliant with all of the most recent logic. So let me show you an example of that. Here I can see that I'm defining a data transformation. This is actually computing a new feature on the data set. I'm looking at a column, which is precipitation, and I'm applying a test to say if it's above a certain value, then it's a rainy day, else it's not a rainy day. Now, let's say my business logic has changed. I've found that this one parameter is not sufficient to capture the right delineation for whatever feature I'm trying to compute. So in this case, I can make this into a 1.0 value instead of a 0.5 value. Now, in a traditional data pipeline, I would have to then go and manually rerun the pipeline, as well as understand all of the implications of downstream data sets that are going to be impacted by this change and go and try and manually re-execute, rerun those pipelines as well, which translates into a lot of extra work. Now, with the Ascend pipeline and with the Ascend Intelligent Data Pipeline Controller, all I have to do is just make this change, publish this change, and the pipeline controller instantly understands something has happened, something needs to be reprocessed in order to bring the data sets up into compliance, not just from this particular step, but from all downstream steps as well. And this propagates through across potentially hundreds of other pipelines that might be impacted by this change in the data set as well. So that's what we mean by the power of automation, basically eliminating the manual orchestration required for working with data pipelines that you would see in a traditional paradigm. So that's super powerful. Now, the other thing that is really powerful about working within Ascend is the speed at which you can do development work by having all of this stuff available to you and by having an instantly reactive controller that is constantly showing you whether what you're doing is the right thing or not. So let me show you an example of that. In this case, I want to enrich some of this data, and I can go ahead and look at the records right away. I can see a query of the live table in Snowflake underneath, and I can understand, okay, this is what my data set looks like in my table. I see that I have a nondescript identifier here, and I want to bring in some more enrichment data to enrich what this is so that my downstream analytics teams can understand not just the identifier, but some more details like station name, maybe latitude, longitude, so they can do some more interesting things with this data. Doing so in Ascend is incredibly simple. All I need to do is go and add a new read connector. We have connections out to literally hundreds of different data sources that you might want to use. Many of those are in preview for some of our larger enterprise customers. Many of them are available for public demand, public use, even in our free trials. So I can go ahead and click and set up any kind of a connector that I want to use. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and select something that's already been set up and shared into this account in a Postgres table. Now, Ascend will help guide me through to find all of the things that I need to find here, to navigate through the schema and understand, okay, this is the schema that I want to consume. I can go ahead and click OK. And then I'm taken into the configuration page where I can set things like the descriptive name for this new data set. In this case, this is weather stations. I can then go ahead and adjust things like the table name inside of Snowflake. I can set replication strategies. I'm going to go ahead and generate the schema So it's going to automatically go out and fetch this data and show me a preview and then set the schema of the destination table within Snowflake automatically for me. So I don't have to do any of that work. And I can see, yes, this is the information that I want. There's the station name that I'm after. There's the latitude and longitude values that I wanted to bring in for this data set as well. And then I have choices of setting data quality rules, as well as lots of other configuration parameters, including a refresh schedule. If I wanted this pipeline or this particular data set to be refreshed on any particular kind of a schedule. So now I'm just going to go ahead and create this. And as we can see, the Ascend pipeline controller automatically sees that a change has happened and work needs to be done. It's going out, it's querying Postgres, it's pulling this data into Snowflake, and it's doing this immediately on demand. So while I am developing, I get this instant feedback of, am I doing the right thing or not? Is this data actually ingesting into Snowflake or not? All of this is happening under the hood, and all of it is happening in an extremely efficient manner, using the intelligence of Ascend's pipeline controller, knowing what needs to happen and only running those jobs if and when they are relevant. Now, if I want to integrate this into my data flow, all I need to do is add a transform based on this step. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and add some text that I have already pre-written, so we don't have to spend as much time with the SQL logic. I'm going to just go ahead and paste this in, and then I'm going to go ahead and create that component. And once again, the Ascend data pipeline controller understands that there's work to be done here. We've just created a new transform. There needs to be a subsequent data set that's generated. And then I can go in and just update this DAG. So this points to the correct upstream. In this case, I'm going to use the autocomplete feature and point it to the weather stations transform as the upstream component. And then once again, the automation kicks in and it reruns the pipeline to automatically reference the new data sets that are relevant in my data pipeline and propagates them all downstream as well. I can stop this from happening if I should so desire by pausing the pipeline at any given state, and it will pause the pipeline and wait for me to unpause it and run that particular branch. I can go ahead and go in and re-enable this pipeline at any time that I want, and I can see that this information continues to flow from left to right all the way across my DAG. Now that's just scratching the surface of what's possible within this new paradigm, but that's all we have time for today. So I'll go ahead and sign off and encourage you, if you'd like to see more, to please reach out for a demo or sign up for our free trial. Thank you very much.